Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tado jayamudire nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavad sevaya bhagavadir uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati neshtiti mukam karoti vachalam pangum vede yat kripadamaham vande shri guru deenadaranam paramananda matam shri chaitanya ishwara namo vishnu padaya krishna prestaya bhutale srimade bhakti vedanta swaminiti namine नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे विशेषाशून्यवादी पाश्चात्य विश्वकारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम 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 Hare Krishna. So we'll do a couple of verses today. This is describing Prithu Maharaj's quality. Prithu Maharaj meeting the four Kumaras, continuing 4th canto, 22nd chapter, 60th sloka. Matrishvesha sarvatma balena mahasaujasa avishyadaya devo bhagavan bhudarat iva. Synonyms: Matarishva, the air; iva, like; sarva atma, all pervading; balena, by bodily strength; mahasa ojasa, by courage and power; avishyadaya, by intolerance; devaha, the demigod; Bhagavan, the most powerful; Bhudarat iva, like Rudra or Satashiva. Translation: his bodily strength and in the strength of his senses, Maharaj Prithu was as strong as the wind, which can go anywhere and everywhere. As far as his intolerance was concerned, he was just like the all-powerful Rudra expansion of Lord Shiva or Satashiva. We'll see 2 more verses. 61. Kandarpa iva saundarye manasvi mrikarat iva vasalye maunan nrina Prabhutve Bhagavan Achaha. Kandarpa, Cupid; iva, like; Saundarye, in beauty; Manasvi, in thoughtfulness; Mriga Rath iva, like the king of animals, the lion; Vasalye, in affection; Manuvat, like Swayambhuva Manu; Nrinam, of human society; Prabhutve, in the matter of controlling; Bhagavan, the Lord; Achaha, Brahma. Translation: his bodily beauty, he was just like Cupid, and in his thoughtfulness, he was just like a lion. In his affection, he was just like Swayambhuva Manu, and in his ability to control, he was like Lord Brahma. So we'll stop with 62nd verse. Brihaspatir Brahmavati Atmavatve Swayam Hari Bhaktyago Guru Vipreshu Vishwakshenanuvartishu Priya Prashraya Shilathyam Atmatulya Parodhyame. Brihaspati, the priest of heavenly planets; Brahmavadi, the matter of spiritual understanding; Atmavatve, in the matter of self-control; Swayam, personally; Harihi, the supreme personality of Godhead; Bhaktya, in devotion; Go, cow; Guru, spiritual master; Vipreshu, unto the Brahmanas; Vishwaksena, the personality of Godhead; Anuvartishu, followers; Priya, by shyness; Prashraya Shilathyam, by most gentle behavior; Atmatulyaha, exactly like his personal interest; Para Udhyame, in the matter of philanthropic work. Translation: his personal behavior, Prithu Maharaj exhibited all good qualities. And in spiritual knowledge, he was exactly like Brihaspati. In self-control, he was like the Supreme Personality Godhead himself. As far as his devotional service was concerned, he was a great follower of devotees who were attached to cow protection and rendering of all service to the spiritual masters and the Brahmanas. He was perfect in his shyness and his gentle behavior. And when he engaged in some philanthropic activities, he worked as if he were working for his personal self. Yeah, Manijin Mataji, can you read the purport?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When Lord Chaitanya talked to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the Lord honored him as the incarnation of Brihaspati. Brihaspati is the chief priest of the heavenly kingdom, and he is a follower of the philosophy known as Brahmavada or Mayavada. Brihaspati is also a great logician. It appears from this statement that Maharaja Prithu, although a great devotee constantly engaged in the loving service of the Lord, could defeat all kind of impersonalists and Mayavadis by his profound knowledge of Vedic scripture. We should learn from Maharaja Prithu that a Vaishnava or devotee must not only be fixed in the service of the Lord, but if required, must be prepared to argue with the impersonalist Mayavadis with all logic and philosophy and defeat their contention that the absolute truth is impersonal. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ideal self-controller or brahmachari. When Krishna was elected to be president of the Rajasuya Yajna performed by Maharaja Yudhishthir, father Bhishma Deva praised Lord Krishna as the greatest brahmachari. Because grandfather Bhishma Deva was a brahmachari, he was quite fit to distinguish a brahmachari from a vyabhachari. Although Prithu Maharaj was a householder and father of 5 children, he was still considered to be most controlled. One who begets Krishna conscious children for the benefit of humanity is actually a brahmachari. One who simply begets children like cats and dogs is not a proper father. The word brahmachari also refers to one who acts on the platform of Brahman or devotional service. In the impersonal Brahman conception, there is no activity, yet when one performs activity in connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is to be known as brahmachari. Thus, Prithu Maharaj was an ideal brahmachari and grihastha simultaneously. Vishwakasena Vratishu refers to those devotees who are constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. Other devotees must follow in their footsteps. Srila Narottam Das Thakur said, Ei Chaya Gosai Yar Muni Tar Das. He is prepared to become the disciple of anyone who follows in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis. Also, like all Vaishnavas, Maharaja Prithu was devoted to cow protection, spiritual masters, and qualified brahmanas. Prithu Maharaj was also very humble, meek, and gentle, and whenever he performed any philanthropic work or welfare activity for the general public, he would labor exactly as if he were tending to his own personal necessities. In other words, his philanthropic activities were not for the sake of show, but were performed out of personal feeling and commitment. All philanthropic activities should be thus performed. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Brihaspati Dhammavati Atmavatve Swayam Harihi Bhaktya Goguru Vipreshu Vishwakshenanavartishu Riya Prashraya Shilabhyam Atmatulya Parodhyame. Translation: his personal behavior, Prithu Maharaj exhibited all good qualities, and in spiritual knowledge, he was exactly like Brihaspati. In self-control, he was like the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And as far as his devotional service was concerned, he was a great follower of devotees who were attached to cow protection and rendering of all service to the spiritual master and the Brahmins. He was perfect in his shyness and his general behavior. And when he engaged in some philanthropic activity, he worked as if he were working for his own personal self. Hare Krishna. So in the previous sloka, we saw how Prithu Maharaj was the beauty. He could attract even the Cupid. Definitely, he is incarnation of the Supreme Personality of God. Kantarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobha. Right? So he can attract, and everything, all his qualities and behavior was explained. Now, in this verse, there's little more explanations to be done. So here it is said, like Sarvam Bhattacharya was incarnation of Brihaspati, and he was following the Brahmavada or Mayavadi. So here Prabhupada mentions that, okay, a devotee should do devotional service, right? It must not only be fixed in the devotional service, but if required, must be prepared to argue with an impersonal Mayavadis. Why? To defeat them by saying that the absolute truth is a person, right? In case if you need. But then, Sri Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami have taught us something else. Who was that scholar who came to Nimai Pandit, and Nimai Pandit defeated him? Who was that? Does anyone remember?
Keshav Kashmiri.
Very nice, Keshav Kashmiri. But who defeated Keshav Kashmiri? I mean, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated. Who else defeated him? There's one more Goswami who defeated him.
Jiva Goswami.
Yes. So Jiva Goswami. So what happened? The Keshav Kashmiri was so proud of being a great scholar. And then he went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we know what happened. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could find a verse which he was telling it wrong, like Bhavani Bharta. So but then that was over. But after that, again, he went to Rupa Goswami, and Keshav Kashmiri was so proud. His big Vijay Pandit, he was so proud of his knowledge that he went and he said, you should sign, whoever get defeated by me should sign in a paper saying that I so-and-so got defeated by the Vijay Pandit, and sign it. So when he approached Sanatana Goswami is like, I already agree that I'm defeated by you. I don't want to waste my time. So he just signed. And when Rupa Goswami saw that Sanatana Goswami himself have signed, he's Reddy Manjari, he can't be defeated. But then Rupa Goswami also signed. But when Digvijay Pandit with this paper, who Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami have signed, and was so proud that he defeated Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. They didn't actually argue, but then they actually wrote and gave. So when Jiva Goswami saw this, Jiva Goswami was boiling. Why? Because his uncles, Rupa and Sanatana, and Rupa Goswami is the guru of Jiva Goswami. It's like, my guru cannot be defeated by you. I will defeat you. So for 7 days, he sat with Digvijay Pandit and finally defeated Digvijay Pandit. And Keshav Kashmiri had to write personally in the paper that I got defeated by Jiva Goswami. But then Jiva Goswami threw that paper out. He cut it and he was tore into pieces. But then he was just trying to decrease the pride of the Digvijay Pandit. But Rupa Goswami punished Jiva Goswami by sending him to Mathura. It's like, you're not fit to be a devotee. Why? You wasted your 7 days for a person who was so proud of his knowledge. I mean, we are not here to prove who is better than who, right? Our knowledge, our self-realization is for our purpose. And in case if required, yes, we need to prepare and argue with an impersonalist or a Mayavadi, not with puffed people. Like whatever we do, the puffness is not going to go, but they need to get a slap from the Lord. And so here, but if it is required, like a Mayavadi, it's like Srila Prabhupada, initially when he went to America, there was a person who actually was talking about Mayavadism. And Prabhupada could not argue because he was with that person for some time. But later on, when Prabhupada got a chance, he broke Mayavadism with his strong philosophy. And sometimes they used to play role play. The Prabhupada used to become a devotee, the disciples will become Mayavadis, and Prabhupada wins. And later, when Prabhupada became Mayavadi in a role play, the devotees are like acting as devotees. Still, Prabhupada used to win because his philosophy was so strong. Okay, and in that way. But then Prabhupada's like, no, Mayavadism is wrong. But if required, we should be able to argue. Not in a way to have an argument or in order to have a fight with them. No, because in a Madhyama stage, what should we do? We should ignore the atheist, or we should ignore the jealous people, envious people. So we should not. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami teach us a lesson that we should not simply waste our time by arguing. There's no use arguing. But then if needed, a devotee should be prepared to give him so much philosophy or reference from the Shastra to prove that the Lord is a person. Another quality mentioned here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a self-controller of brahmachari. Now, this was a great confusion. Now, Krishna had 16,108 queens, and every queen, how many children he had? Does anyone know?
10 children.
10. Yeah, 9 girls and 1 son. Yeah, so each wife, he had 10 children. Now, when you say the Supreme Personality Godhead is an ideal brahmachari, what does that mean? So it means here, Prabhupada mentions that a brahmachari grihastha means one who begets Krishna conscious children for the benefit of humanity. That's called a brahmachari. Okay, so that means Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, dharma aviruddha kamosmi, like any the kama, the relationship which is not against the Shastra. Okay, so that means the genitals can also be used in Krishna consciousness to get Krishna conscious children and not beget children like cats and dogs. And it says that's not a proper father. What does a cat and dog do? Just for sense gratification, right? Nothing else. They are not means that they are animals, their consciousness is low. But a human being also begets children like that, then what happens? He's not a proper father. So the verse, Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.18 by Rishabhadev also says, who is an actual father? Guru nasasya, swajano nasasya, pita nasasya, janani nasasya, devam tadasya, napadesha sasya, namo jayete samapeda mrityu. A guru is not a guru. A swajana, your relatives are not your relatives. Pita nasasya, your father is not a father. Janani nasasya, your mother is not a mother. Devam tadasya, Napadisha sasya, your husband is not a husband. Namojiyadi samapoyita mrityu. If that person is not able to save you from birth, death, old age, disease. In the sense, a father is not a father, a mother is not a mother, a guru is not a guru. If they are not able to save that soul from rebirth, your child, if your parent, or father, you are a father or mother, your child, because of some karma, he or she was born as a child. You should see, it's your responsibility to see that soul doesn't take reincarnation again, doesn't go in search of another mother's womb. That means you are supposed to give spiritual knowledge to that child. And when your children comes to Krishna consciousness, then you are successful as a father and mother. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport, if you can't do that, don't become a father and mother. Prabhupada was so grave in saying that one who cannot deliver his dependence from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. Now, this is like, it's difficult. if you are your children are young, somehow you can bring to Krishna consciousness. But at teenage, and when they become adults, little difficult, but then you try your best to give them spiritual knowledge so that they don't go for a repeated birth and death. You understood? So this is the real meaning of a father, mother, husband. So here in this, you can read this purport, very nice purport by Srila Prabhupada. And this is the Rishabhadev advice by saying that. So that's why somebody rejected his guru, because that guru was stopping him from going to Krishna. Who was that? He rejected his guru. Who rejected his guru?
Bali Maharaj.
Bali Maharaj. Yeah, Bali Maharaj rejected Shukracharya because Shukracharya was stopping him from going to Vamanadev. And what about somebody rejecting his father, Pita?
Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad Maharaj. Who
Prahlad
rejected his
Maharaj.
mother, Janani? Who rejected the mother?
Dhruva Maharaj.
Dhruva Maharaj. So
No.
Suniti actually helped him to go to Krishna. No, when Dhruva Maharaj got delivered, his mother was also going to Vaikuntha. Dhruva Maharaj's mother is Krishna conscious. Bharat Maharaj. Yes, Bharat Maharaj. And what about, that's Lord Ram's brother. And what about who rejected the husbands? Because they were stopping.
Gopis.
The Brahmanis.
The gopis, they are already liberated. The who?
The Brahmanis.
Yajnapatis, or the Brahmana's wife, when Krishna and Balram went to ask for some prasad, and they were busy in Yajna, and the wives, they came and gave. So this is what will happen if somebody is stopping you from going to Krishna. So who rejected his brother? His own brother?
Vibhishan.
It's like we can't reject our brothers or mothers or fathers because they are stopping us. We can't become Prahlad. No, that's why it's called, we should follow the footsteps, not copy them. Here it is said, Yeichaye Goshani Yare Muni Taradas. I'm prepared to become the disciple of anyone who follows the footsteps of 6 Gosamis. Mahajinena Gatasapanda. You should follow the footsteps, not copy or imitate them. You can't become Prahlad. Prabhupada's like, okay, you say you're God, go lift Govardhan. You say you're Lord Shiva, go drink poison. No, don't try to imitate whatever the great personalities or the lords have done. We can't do that. So we have to, the devotees must just follow in their footsteps. No? So devotees should be already engaged in the devotion service and should follow in the footsteps. Mahaprabhu also says, Gopi Bhartum Padakamalo, Dasu Dasana Das. You have to Padakamalo, you have to follow their footsteps. That's the only way. And here it is said, there's one more story. It says, Bhishma Dev says that Lord Krishna is the greatest brahmachari. So here we should not misunderstand. Brahmachari doesn't mean only somebody who's celibacy. No, there is also called Grihastha Brahmachari. Grihastha Brahmachari means they beget children only for Krishna conscious activities, or they have only Krishna conscious children. Otherwise, they are considered as Grihamedis. So there's Grihastha Ashrama and Grihamedis. So initially, before coming to Krishna consciousness, we were all Grihamedis. The sense gratification was main for us. But then after coming to Krishna consciousness, there is Krishna in the center. All of you get up early morning, chant your rounds, then offer bhog, take prasad, hear Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. So that means Krishna is in the center of your house, right? So much peace and happiness in the house. All of you agree once you come to Krishna consciousness. Why? Because your mind and senses are getting controlled. And okay, whatever happened before, let it be. But now once you come to Krishna consciousness, you should become the most self-controlled. Here it is said, Prithu Maharaj, even though he had 5 children, was considered the most best controlled. Why? He was like a brahmachari. So here, once what happened, the gopis wanted to cross the river and go to the other side. So the river was like flowing so heavily that they could not cross. So they didn't know what to do. So I think Durvasa Muni, I don't remember who, yeah, he was there. And the gopis are like, how to cross the river? Now please help us. So Durvasa Muni is like, just tell the river that Krishna is the greatest brahmachari. And then the river will give you way. If it is true, if that is the truth, it will give the way. All the gopis started giggling and laughing. What? Krishna, the greatest brahmachari? What is he saying? And then they could not believe, but still they went near the river and said loudly, Krishna is the greatest brahmachari. And the river gave way to them. They were shocked. Krishna is the greatest brahmachari. And they crossed and went to the other side. And from there, they didn't know what to do. They had to come back after their work. They had to come back. So while they're coming back, they don't know how to come back again. So what is the mantra to come back again? So I think it was Krishna himself there, and he was saying that just say that Krishna is the greatest grihastha. And they said loudly, Krishna is the greatest grihastha, and again the river gave the way. They came back. So the gopis are confused. Hey, Krishna is a brahmachari, Krishna is a grihastha. What is this? So can someone explain how can we say that Krishna is the greatest brahmachari? He is also the greatest grihastha. In what way? In what way does he fulfill the criteria? Okay, one thing is Krishna's senses are transcendental. Anga niyasya sakalendriya vritti mandi, right? It's transcendental. How did Krishna create Brahma? How did Swayambhu Brahma come? How did he come?
From his nabi.
Yeah, from his nabi. So did he take the help of Lakshmi Devi? No. That's why Brahma is called Swayambhu. So Prabhupada mentions that not like a normal, you should never take the Lord in your material platform. Whenever Krishna does some pastime, never pull Krishna towards your realm. Our understanding is very small that, oh, Krishna would have done that, done this. Because we are thinking from our point of view. Like the frogs in the well. There were 2 frogs in the well. What happened to them? Does anyone know the frog philosophy? What is the frog philosophy? There are 2 frogs in the well. Now, one frog was living inside the well. One frog has come from outside. Then what happened? Nobody is reading Prabhupada's books. Yes,
the well is the universe. The well is the biggest in the world. That was a philosophy of a frog who was living in the well only.
Yeah. So what was he doing? He was comparing that water in the well to the ocean. Yeah. So what happened? There were 2 frogs in the well. Then there were 2 frogs. I need to end soon because there's a breaking time. Today is very soon. Anybody in Bangalore, it's like 6:25 a.m. to 6:27 a.m. There's 2 minutes time. So how do you break when there's like 2 minutes? Just take some poha, a chipped rice or puffed rice in your hand. Just see the time and just put it one grain. If you put in the mouth, a poha, chipped rice, you break the fast. So see the breaking time in your place and break the fast. Otherwise, your ekadashi will be just wasted. So yeah, as Prabhu said, there were 2 frogs in the well, and one frog was living inside the well. He never went out. He was born in the well and he was living in the well. Okay, it was just in the well. So for that frog, as Prabhu said, that well was the universe. He didn't see anything else. He just saw that well and he's like, so much water in the well. There's nothing greater than this. But another frog has come from outside. He has seen all the ocean, the Pacific Ocean and everything, and he has come from outside. So the frog which is inside the well was asking, the outside frog was asking, did you see an ocean? And the inside frog was like, ocean? How big it is? Is it 10 times bigger than this well? And the other frog is 10 times, it's greater than that. Or is it 100 times bigger than this well? Because he's comparing that ocean to the well. Where is well? Well is like so small when you compare to an ocean, right? Because he didn't see what an ocean is, he thinks that well is everything, the greatest. Similarly, those who don't know Krishna, those who don't know beyond this material world, that there is a spiritual world and everything, they compare Krishna's activities into this material world. How strong is Krishna? Stronger than, who's that, the greatest boxer in the material world? Or how beautiful is Krishna? beautiful than Miss India or Miss World. You compare Krishna's beauty to this material world. That's wrong. No, that's wrong because we are inside the well. That's like Frog's philosophy, Prabhupada says. You can't understand Krishna if you don't go through the Shastras. So in that way, Krishna's senses are transcendental, and Krishna didn't take the help of Lakshmi Devi to create Brahma. He is the Supreme Lord himself. So in that way, yes, they don't have a relationship like the material people to have children. Krishna is transcendental. Just by his glance, he can create. So in that way, he's a brahmachari. Just by glance, he's creating, right? So that is one thing. And another thing is, he had all, if somebody is creating Krishna conscious children, he's considered to be a brahmachari, not using the senses as cat and dog, right? So that's one thing. And second thing is, he's the greatest grihastha because Krishna fulfilled all the desires of his wives. And when Narad Muni went to Dwaraka in 16,108 palaces, Krishna was there. Krishna was a perfect husband. Krishna was a perfect father, and everyone. Because a perfect father means who takes back the child to the Krishna's world, or who sees that the child doesn't go for rebirth. Definitely, Krishna is transcendental, and his children and his wives, everyone were the associates. And Krishna took them back home, back to Godhead once he ended his fasting. The cursing of the Yadu dynasty and all that, that's just for the pastime purpose, for the mundane people to understand. Atheistic people, they won't understand other ways. But it's Krishna's plan to take all the Yadu dynasty back. Why? Because once he go back, he should have his pastimes there. So he takes everyone back home, back to Godhead. So the most controlled person is supposed to be a brahmachari, somebody who could control his senses. Vacho vegam manasa kroto vegam, jihva vegam udarapasta vegam, etan veganyo vishahita dhira, sarva apima prativim sa shishya. So such person can have disciples all over the world who could control the senses, mainly the genitals, because it should be used to beget Krishna conscious children. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada's guru said, if I could have Krishna conscious children, I will use my genitals almost 100 times to get Krishna conscious children. That means he wanted when you have Krishna conscious children, what are we doing? That's also a kind of preaching. You're having more and more devotees to preach. So once it was said, Mataji could not, I'll stop with this, one Mataji could not do any service. So because she had children, like very small child. So she wrote a letter to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, I'm not able to do deity worship. I'm not able to chant my rounds. What happens when you have a kid? He'll just do potty every time, like he'll pass stools. Now, when you're changing the diaper, when you touch the stool, what happens? You become impure. Again, you have to take a bath to touch your beads. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, right? And how many times? Because if the Vedic Shastra says, once you touch the stool, you're supposed to take bath and then touch your beads. Whoever is not doing it, please, that's an offense. If you go to pass urine, then you can do just Ajaman and continue chanting. But if you pass stools, then you're supposed to take a bath and then do devotional service, then offer bow, then only you can go to the altar or touch Bhagavatam and scriptures. Otherwise, it's offense. So just imagine a mother who's doing it. All the time she's like touching the potty of the child. It's not easy. It's not easy to do the japa. So it was difficult for her, and she wrote a letter to Prabhupada saying her sadhana was not feeling good. So Prabhupada replied back by saying that your first service is to take care of that child. You're doing Vaishnav Seva. That child, you're training under Krishna consciousness for that child. That child, our soul, is going to be a preacher tomorrow and after a few years, or going to be our greatest book distributor, or going to be a Sankirtan person. No, someone who can spread Krishna consciousness, or you're training somebody to become a guru. You don't know what your child is going to be in Krishna consciousness, because she's a devotee. She's training like Suniti, how Prabhupada writes in the purport, Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest in search of the Lord because of his mother Suniti. She was Krishna conscious. She was a devotee. She could guide her son. She became the real mother. But Surichi, the second mother, she's just for namesake mother. Just by giving birth of a child doesn't make you a mother or a father. Only you become a mother or the father when you're really able to save that dependent from the path of birth and death. So we should contemplate on this. This is the third point today. And yeah, Prabhupada replied back that you are doing Vaishnav Seva and taking care of the child is your first service. So in that way, taking care of our dependents is our first service, and then only we become the real husband and mother. So Rishabhadev advises that if he's unable to save his disciple from the path and death, we should not become a mother or a father or this thing, because otherwise, and here he gives the different examples of Bali Maharaj rejecting Shukracharya and everything. So here Bharat Maharaj rejecting his mother, right? Prahlad rejecting his father. So yeah, so this is what is very important. And he says everyone should be responsible to take charge of his dependent, right? As a father takes charge of his son. And this is our responsibility. All responsibilities cannot be discharged honestly unless one save the dependents from the repeated birth and death. So we should try our best to give Krishna consciousness to the family, and we pray for that for family. First you pray. We can't force anyone to Krishna consciousness, right? Every soul has its own journey. Might be it's not time for them, but then since you sincerely chant for them, Krishna will definitely provide, at least next Janma, they become devotees. But as far as possible, those who are mothers here, please cook prasad bhog and offer to Krishna, make prasad. You can't force your children to do devotion unless you are doing it. If you chant, they chant. If you pay obeisances, they pay obeisances. Because children copy, they like to absorb, they imitate the father and the mother. So unless you do, and give them Krishna prasad daily, Krishna prasad, make them hear some kirtan, take them to temple during festivals, and give them devotee association, make them friendship with the devotees. Then what happens? Slowly, slowly their consciousness will change. So it's very important to deliver our dependence from the cycle of birth and death. And Prithu Maharaj was absolutely doing it. And that's why he's the greatest brahmachari. These are all different qualities of Prithu Maharaj, right? Prithu Maharaj was an ideal brahmachari and a grihastha simultaneously. It's difficult to understand. How can a brahmachari become grihastha, or grihastha and brahmachari simultaneously? So you understood why I'm saying it's a brahmachari and a grihastha? So that's because he's Krishna's incarnation only. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Anything to add? Hare Krishna. Yeah, if you have Jagannath Prasad Aishi, you can just take that Jagannath rice, the dried one, just put it in your mouth. That's like you broke the fast. Or else take some poha or chipped rice or puffed rice, whatever you have, just have it so that you can just take a mouthful, or just one grain is enough, and you have broken the fast. So just see, there's something called a Vaishnava calendar app you can install then, and there is a settings to set your place, location, and based on the location, the notification pops up like on the previous day. If tomorrow is Ekadashi, it pops up, and all the Vaishnava Acharyas, appearance, disappearance, fasting, everything pops up as a reminder for you. And also it shows the breaking time. So it's easy for you to follow, or else just go through in the internet where's your breaking time. Breaking time is very important than following Ekadashi. Taking Ekadashi is okay, secondary, but the first thing is to break. Fried gram grain is also fine, Dinesh Prabhu. Anything cereal or a grain should be taken to break the fast. Okay. So I think there's one more sloka in this chapter, then we are done with this chapter. So tomorrow Mataji may continue. Hare Krishna everyone, thank you for joining. Please continue chanting. Anchakalpatarubhasya prabhasindhave evacha patitanam pavaneva vaishnavebhyo namo namah vaishnavi ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Kannada Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So today take home lesson is try to bring your dependents into Krishna consciousness some way or the other. If they are not at all ready to accept, chant for them. Your 16 rounds is fine. One extra round you chant for that particular soul. Your husband, your wife, your children, chant for them. It makes a lot of difference. Okay, or else give them Krishna Prasad. Daily see that you give them Krishna Prasad. Some dry fruits, some salad. Don't tell them it's Krishna Prasad. Take out the tulsi, just give them, offer them. Let them take. Let them get Ajnana Sukriti by that way. Or somehow try to take them to an ISKCON center where there is nice Sunday feast and give them that prasad. Or tell them to hear some nice kirtan. And whatever you heard from the lectures, try to share with them. If they are pious, they will listen. And they will listen, and slowly they will also, when they see you change, when you start chanting and you start changing. So one wife was like, I was shocked to see my husband giving up drinking. He was like a chronic alcoholic. And when he came to Krishna consciousness, he left drinking. The wife automatically came to Krishna consciousness. She's like, what magic is there in this mantra that a chronic alcoholic can give up his alcohol? So she was shocked that what change can come in my husband. So let me also come to Krishna consciousness. So that was the way she came to Krishna consciousness. Another person was like, oh, my wife used to get angry all the time. But then the husband saw her chanting and he's like, that made her control her anger. Let me also take up Krishna consciousness. So you become a role model for the family so that when they see the changes in you, they also feel like following Krishna consciousness. So that's the take-home lesson today, that we try to bring our dependence to Krishna consciousness so that they'll be saved from the repeated birth and death. Yeah. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for joining. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Then
Mataji.